Breaking news. Now more than ever, it's essential that you make sure that you're using a realtor and not just a real estate agent. And I'll tell you why right here on Moveonomics. Stay tuned. This is a biggie. Hello and welcome to Moveonomics. I'm Peter Fife with Coldwell Banker Northland in beautiful Prescott, Arizona, where Prescott is everybody's hometown, and let's make it your hometown too. Breaking super important crucial news. Now more than ever, it is so essential that you make sure you're using a realtor and not just a real estate agent. And I'm going to explain why and what's going on. So, first of all, background. Department of Justice and National Association of Realtor had their settlement, which has changed the way we do things right now. You now have to sign a buyer-broker agreement with a real estate agent before you meet with them and you walk in any house and you're agreeing to have them be paid a certain amount. Whatever the seller pays goes against that amount. We know that part of it, correct? Another part of it was the breaking up of the multiple listing service. So I've been in this game for 29 years now. In the really, really old days, right before I got into it right when the computers were kind of starting. Okay, yeah, it's really old. But before that, they had something called the MLS book. And it was a book of all the listings, and only realtors could have those. And you were not allowed to share that book with anybody. It was like private information, right? And then it's now morphed where the multiple listing service was online. It used to be that the multiple listing service had only all the listings. You didn't have Realtor.com. You didn't have the internet. You did have the internet, but it was just a multiple listing service. Then Realtor.com got started and it had that. Then Zillow took it all over and whatever. The point is, the multiple listing service used to be tied with an agent that had to be associated with the National Association of Realtors and be considered a realtor because you had to join what was called an association, like the Prescott, Arizona Association or Southeast Valley Regional Association. There's associations all over. What the association served at the time was kind of like an internal policing system of the real estate agents. You had a code of ethics that you have to live by. And if those agents didn't live by that code of ethics, we could take care of it inside the association. You were not allowed to be on the multiple listing service if you were not a realtor in the old days. All bets are off now. They've now broken apart the multiple listing service where a real estate agent does not have to be a realtor to be part of the multiple listing service. So there are a whole bunch of realtors that are, I don't need to be part of the National Association of Realtors. I'm just going to be a real estate agent, and I don't need to pay that extra fee to be part of the National Association of Realtors. Big red flag. At least in the state of Arizona, I'm going to tell you some stuff that's going to shock your pants off. And you're going to be like, what? I never knew. Because most normal people who are not in the business have no clue. They think a real estate agent is the same as a realtor, is the same as everybody. All real estate agents are created equal. They're like car salesmen. No, they're not. Okay. Nothing against car salesmen, by the way. I've known some very good car salesmen in the past. And I like my car salesmen, actually. They're very honest. But history lesson 101. Here we go. What is the National Association of Realtor and what does it do for you as the client? Why should you care? Here's what happened. Back in 1906, real estate was pretty much looked at below a car salesman. When the earthquake in San Francisco happened in 1906, there was a guy by the last name of Coldwell that was a real estate agent and saw that lots of people were taking advantage of people who had their houses burned down. Gosh, kind of sounds like Maui, doesn't it? But okay, I'm not going to go there. So anyway, but they were taking advantage of people, buying their houses for pennies, selling it for more, never representing people. And he thought that was wrong. And he says, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to start a company called Coldwell, and it was something else in Tucker or whatever. Later, it became Coldwell Banker. That whole business of Coldwell Banker was based upon ethics, high ethics standard. In fact, FYI, Coldwell Banker was ranked as the #1 most ethical real estate company 11 years in a row. Okay, so ethics is huge. So the National Association was started out of the need for ethics in real estate. It was voluntary. Okay, real estate agents could join that to say, hey, I am a realtor because I am living by a code of ethics that sets me at the highest standard of customer service and customer representation. Okay, that's fine and dandy. I have to live by a code of ethics. As a realtor, that is what I have to do. Anybody that's a member of the National Association of Realtors, National Association of Realtors has to do that, okay? A real estate agent is only bound by whatever state they're in. That's it. Now, the state of Arizona follows very closely to the code of ethics. Some states, however, do not. Now, in the state of Arizona, being a realtor is not just important for you for the code of ethics, but it comes down to the forms you use when you're buying and selling a home. In Arizona, we don't have state mandated forms. It doesn't exist. And as a realtor in Arizona, I could legally act as a real estate attorney as long as I'm not paid for it. I have to only make my money through a commission, okay? But in the state of Arizona, I can draft contracts. I can do just about anything. This is only my state. Utah was not that way. Utah had their own real estate forms they provided by the state. But in Arizona, all our forms that we have and use for 95% of our transactions that are residential and luxury come from the National Association, our local boards and our committees from the realtors, okay? They're copyrighted forms. So, for example, when you write a contract in Arizona on the copyrighted form that comes from the association, you're going to have a seller's property disclosure statement. You're going to have an inspection period. You're going to have a form that talks about the compensation for the other agent. Now, let's say that agent says, I don't want to be a realtor. I don't want to be part of the association. Guess what they don't have access to? And guess what they cannot use by copyright? Any of those forms, which means, where are they getting their forms? Their company's drawing up some forms? Do they have an attorney drawing up a form? All the forms that we use right now as realtors, as members of the National Association of Realtors and part of the associations, have been scrutinized and looked at by multiple attorneys, by a committee of 20 different brokers who look at it, pick through it, and say, there's a problem with this one. We got to change this. This isn't protecting the client here. This isn't protecting client here. Gosh, we need to change this. It took us 6 months to come up with a new form with this DOJ NAR thing, and my broker was directly involved with making these forms. She'd come back to us as an office, show us the form they're doing, and we would have a lot of input and say, that's a bad one. We need to take that out and replace it with this. Great minds and many minds make a better, more bulletproof document. You do not and will not have access with that unless you are using a realtor with the National Association of Realtors. So the first question out of your mouth should be, are you a realtor? Are you a member of the National Association of Realtors? If the answer is no, don't walk away, run. Because guess what? You're not going to be protected as well. I mean, maybe you are, but the chances are less. I'll put it that way. Many minds make better forms that are more bulletproof, okay? Number two, you got to ask yourself the question, why don't they want to be a realtor? Is the number one reason they're cheap? If they're cheap, why the heck do you want to list your house with them or use them as your buyer's agent? What are they telling you? My profession isn't worth enough to me to invest $300, $400, $500 a year to be a member of the National Association of Realtors and have access to the forms that's going to protect my client and be better for my person? Are you kidding? It's like hiring an attorney who doesn't own a cell phone because it costs too much. What? What are you talking about? Okay. So number two, or is it because they don't want to live to a higher standard of the ethics? And if that's the question, if that's the case, again, run, don't walk. So there you have it. There's the reason why it's so important to make sure you use somebody who is a licensed real estate agent, who is a member of the National Association of Realtors, and who is a realtor. So hopefully that helps you out. Now, I'd love it if you used me if you're coming up this direction, but if you're just looking at this nationally, please pay close attention. And thank you so much for joining me on Moveonomics. Make sure you give me a call right here at 636-7000 or email me at peter@listingprescott.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.